What's up YouTube, this is Fate, bringing you another banlist reaction video. And I kinda got wind of this morning and heard some pretty interesting things on what was up from a couple friends. So I figured I'd check this out for myself. And first thing that we see right away here is Qliphort Towers is now hit the forbidden list, cannot use them anymore. Couple thoughts come to my head when I first saw this. A, thank you. I don't have to worry about this. Out to towers is not going to be a thing this next format. And the other thing that came to my mind right away was about a day ago I saw the YuGiNoNo's video on a Qliphorts deck that's without towers, and it's kind of got me wondering. Now that I think about it, Did he call this? Did he call this from a day ago when the ban list was not up and built the deck that doesn't need towers? I don't know, jury's out on that one, but YuGiNoNo, if you have an answer for me on that one, feel free to explain. And the next thing on the list, and ooh, this is a very interesting hit. Strategist of Necros is also down for the count. That's going to make things very interesting for Necros players. That search is now gone, and it's going to be interesting to see how they maneuver with the other searchers. And oh no, jeez, wow. The next two things on the ban list right off the bat, Shaddolls Construct, just like in the OCG, it is now banned in the TCG. Wow, doesn't even go to one. Clowns, I blame you. I'm just blaming you right now, clowns. You pretty much took all chaos ability for the most part away from Shaddolls. Congratulations. And this, I'm not sure about this one. Evil Swarm Exciton Knight is also banned now? I mean, granted, he's reset the field, deal no damage guy, but this is a really interesting move by Konami. Pretty much getting rid of a mass field destruct button. Does this mean Heavy Storm is... Nope, I see it right there on the list. Heavy Storm is still not off the ban list, and wow, they really don't want any floodgates or combos being messed with during this next format. This is a very, very shocking hit. I'm not sure many people expected this at all, and it's going to mess up a good slide in my extract for a bunch of my builds, so... Huh. It's going to be interesting not having to worry about that anymore. But it looks like for the most part that is it for the ban cards, hitting all of the monsters this time. Let's go down and see what's happening in the limited. Ooh! Qliphort Towers just got hit, and now Scout just got hit down to 1. So they really messed with Qliphorts on this list. Wow, taking away a lot of search power with towers gone. All I have to do is hit the 1 scout now, and Qliphort's speed is all but gone except for Wavering Eyes and a good chunk of people's builds, so... And... Oh, come on. Put Moral Talk back up to 2 for me, please. Please. Don't make me hit the refresh button. Will hitting the refresh button do anything? Probably not. But, yeah, Qliphorts might not be a thing this format. They definitely hit them badly. And speaking of hits that people have been waiting for a while, Graph, Malbranch of the Burning Abyss, has now been hit down to 1. And I actually have a theory on how the ban list worked a little bit, especially for the Burning Abyss players. Even though we split off from 2 different lists, OCG and TCG, the My theory is the reason why they didn't hit Graph Malbranch of the Burning Abyss before in the last list is because those cards weren't open to the OCG public at all. They didn't have them in their format. It's interesting to think about because normally you'd think about these couple of separate formats that they shouldn't even mess with each other too much. But I've noticed that unless both the TCG and the OCG have a card, they will not hit that card on the ban list until both areas of the game have that card. And I think that's what happened with the Burning Abyss here and why they waited so long to hit a Burning Abyss monster and went for a tour guide instead of that list. Which also brings up a very interesting point because if Cosmos get good and really quickly, that means it's probably going to be a good year. We see them even being touched on the list, which if they do end up being that new front runner deck for a while, yeah, that might be something to get used to very quickly here. Okay, let's move on to the next thing on the list, and Mathematician. Now, Mathematician going down to run 1, it's one of those hits that, again, I'm not happy about, but at the same time it makes sense. It kind of follows the same rule with Lavalval Chain and the Clown Engine, especially with the Shaddolls. It just gives you that free unconditional +1 that there are just so many ways you can combo off it, and I just realized I'm going to need to find some new replacement cards for my Quasar deck that I just put up. Other ban lists, it's kind of a different feeling with this ban list. Other ban lists, I've been seeing other things around me get hit and not necessarily my builds, but wow, this is actually hurting me a lot so far. But anyways, it does make sense that they would follow the same route with Mathematician as they did with Lavalval Chain. Will it still be a presence in the game at 1? Definitely. Will you see it as often? Not nearly as much anymore, but those are my 2 cents on that. Moving on down the list, and whoa, wow, we've got a trio of monsters down here. Necros of Brionic and the Grave Recurrer Necros of Unicorn both hit down to 1. So the consistency of Necros builds have been castrated, for lack of a better term. Necros is definitely going to see a real speed decrease. I'm not seeing Necros of Trishula on here. I do agree with that a little bit. Trishula is more of a power play. He's not that speed plays facilitator or overwhelming control monster like a Qliphort Towers was. He's just that one-hit ability, 2700 beater, but in order to get to those combos consistently, you needed the Shrit, and you needed both these guys to make those combos happen. And to see both these hit down to 1 and Shrit now gone, it's going to be interesting to see how Necros players in the TCG definitely adapt to this. And the fusion monster that has now been hit down to 1 is Ritual Beast Ultra Canohawk, which also makes sense in my mind because this monster is a searching fiend as far as getting all your plays set up. The loop is just absolutely dumb on how you can get 3 back row for near nothing. In fact, even though it's a step for hitting Ultra Canohawk down to 1, I do see that they want to keep Ritual Beasts in retrospect on they're going to be a much stronger build with a lot of the other builds getting hit hard on this list already. But I can tell you this right now is unless you have that initial response for the first ulti Canohawk, this will not slow down Ritual Beasts because they only need 1 in the first place to launch combo multiple times. So it's going to be very interesting to see how this plays out throughout this next format here. Going down the list, and another hit for Shaddolls. El Shaddol Fusion has now been hit down to 1. And it makes sense because even with constructs getting hit and banned completely, with Ritual Fusion, it's still a problem card for OTKs. Mainly because you still get the 2600 Shekanaga, 2700 Anatolis, even 2450 Grista and 2200 attack Winda. That is a lot of attack power to be thrown around when you're making game pushes. So I do agree with it being hit down to 1. But with cards like Shaddolls Hedgehog and that, it shouldn't hurt the build too much in that area. Unless they find a way to banish the spell out of the graveyard. But, yeah, I see this slowing down Shaddolls a lot more along with the construct, but I don't know. If these are all the only 2 hits for Shaddolls, that makes me feel a little bit hopeful, because I remember seeing an OCG build that topped when they had similar hits, and they're still able to do quite well working around it. So it's going to be very interesting to see how Shaddolls endure with this one. And going down on the list, saw this one coming. Reinforcement of the army down to 1. It was nice to test it out. It was very nice to see how warriors would do and how warrior archetypes would be able to be revitalized along with this. But at the same time, they are some of the strongest archetypes, especially with the Tellers just winning Worlds. So Rhoda being hit down to 1 is a definite hit. In fact, speaking of which, on the limited to 1s or the bans, we have not seen any Altairs, Denebs, Vegas, none of the Exceeds, even Ptolemaeus. None of them are there on the limited list, so with the exception of Road down to 1, this might be the turning of the page for the TCG right here. So Tellers have just come from an outside looking in front runner with Cosmos, Nekros, Qliphorts, and Shaddolls running around to one of the best decks of the format, because they're hardly getting hit on this at all. So that is a definite shakeup, and we'll see how the last of the Duelist Alliance sets to not be hit as much does in this next format here, with a bunch of the new builds coming out. And going down to the semi-limiteds, it looks like we only have 1, and that's a Seer Melbranch of the Burning Abyss. Censorship? Is that a thing on this channel? Is it yet? I won't tell if you won't tell. But, no, actually I might stand by that earlier comment, because this card definitely has earned that right as far as those combos go. But again, it's a long-awaited hit, but again, it loops back to my logic on how both the TCG and the OCG both have to have the card before they make any sort of hits. So, Syrup, glad to see you on here. And one of the other cards that did not get put on here is Dante got off the list scot-free on this one, so Dante's for days, and rank 3s are still going to be a heavy presence in the Burning Abyss. It won't be as consistent, but you should be able to still make triple Dantes with what's left out here. And last but not least, we go to the cards that are no longer limited, and it looks like we've got 4 of them right here. Chaos Sorcerer. Not seeing Chaos plays as much anymore, especially with Shaddolls Construct hit. That pretty much takes away a multitude of the Chaos plays right there. So Chaos Sorcerer going back up to 3 with that in mind. I can definitely see that. Legendary 6 Samurai Shien. A once very threatening card. I agree with this coming off the list, because even though he still has that fantastic ability, in retrospect for against all the other cards in the game today, his stats are not what they used to be. So I definitely agree with the hit on Shien down to, or going back up to 3 rather. Spellbook of Fate, which means we might be on the tail end of spellbooks starting to recover from prior ban lists hits in order to keep them in relevance with the game today. And with Spellbook of Fate being a very key card in that build as far as banishing and looped recycling plays go, it's going to be very interesting to see this thing and how it operates back at 3. And the same thing with Gear. Georgia's getting their main push cards, their Exceeds plays back up and ready to go. But for the way trap special summoners work, especially with Georgia's, unlike Spellbook of Fates, as being more of a reactor card, it might be too late for Georgia's on their support back. If somebody can prove me wrong and top with Georgia's throughout this format, hey, I would not mind being proved wrong on this one. I'm just saying, Georgia's, this might have come a little too late with them, especially with the power creep coming from the upcoming builds. And with that, that is my ban list reaction video. My poor Shaddolls. No more Shaddall updates. That's going to be a thing. However, oh, actually, that's the other thing. Dragon Ravine's still at 2. So, dragons aren't completely off the hook with what's coming out. That is very interesting. But anyways, like I said, that's my ban list reaction video. Hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, comment, rate, and subscribe. And until next time.